When I first started reading for this podcast, I decided that the first few books I would go for were books that I'd already read before. And you can say, oh, that's slightly cheating, but yeah, I'm not going to argue against that. But by God, there is something about this book that just eats me, and I have absolutely no guilt about reading it a second time, despite being somebody who really doesn't like to read the same story twice. I've started to notice a pattern where I will pick up Strange Picture, start reading it at some point past 8 in the evening, and I'll have the book finished by lunch the following day. I think that if I went for it, that I could read this book front to back in 5 hours give or take, and that's not a dig at the author or the style it's written in, but just how good the mystery of it all hooks into you, how it latches onto somebody's attention. And I know that we've all got short attention spans these days, but with Strange Pictures, I forgot that that was a thing at all. But anyway, Strange Pictures, Stranger Name, and certainly a stranger story. On the surface, it's just a book that contains 5 short stories about strange pictures that are somehow related to death. Sometimes it's a murder, sometimes it's just a tragedy. But every story has a little coincidence, a little fact that's unexpected, or a name that aligns in another. You don't realize that there is a mystery until the pieces have already started falling into place. And you don't realize it's a murder mystery until one of the deuteragonists is killed in front of your own eyes. It's intriguing in a way like I didn't know plot twists could be. I blame Disney for that. Give me 10 years of movies with bad plot twists and twist villains, and my standards for what is good will be on the floor. But on the topic of bad twists, one of the critiques that I've seen floating around online about this book is that all the story elements are too neatly aligned, and yeah, they are neatly aligned, because at the end of the day, this is still a story. And I'd argue that all stories are just consequences of big and small coincidences. I don't mind that the college students who are wholly unrelated to the main plotline other than appearing in the beginning and at the end of the book somehow manage to weasel their way into it through factors far removed from their own control. Life just works like that sometimes. But critiques out of the way, I think it's time to start spoiling, so if my extremely intellectually well-informed rant just now has fully convinced you to pick up the book yourself, then I suggest clicking away and go pick up the book right now. I will warn you, however, about both the book and this episode. If you're uncomfortable with depictions of murder, death, sexual assault, and things of that variety, then maybe this story isn't for you. The assault isn't described in like much detail in my opinion, but just so you're aware that it does happen in the book. But I digress. There's just little over 11 characters in total, I'd say. If you count minor characters such as the daycare workers, the detective, family friends, and colleagues of these 11, then I think you'd maybe have 17. But the most important character is Naomi Kono, a mother and serial killer. Naomi's backstory is revealed in the final chapter of the book after we read how she's not only killed her husband, killed her daughter-in-law, but also stabbed someone who she believes is trying to invade her home in Tokyo. Her story begins when she was, I believe, 6, when her father dies of suicide and her mother starts abusing her. Her mom is a woman who realizes she has no real connection to after she tells her young daughter that it should have been her who died instead of her husband. A horrible thing to say to a child, really, but also horrible is when one day Naomi comes home from her first day back in school, only to find her mother crushing her beloved pet bird in her hand. The bird is special. It was a gift from her father, one that she cherishes very much, going as far as to beg on her hands and knees for her mother to spare Cheapy. Her mother, unmoved by her pleas, continues to crush the bird to death, because it was being too loud all day. So Naomi, in a panic and deep love for her beloved pet, kills her mother. Chippy survives the ordeal, and a psychologist is later brought in to evaluate Naomi's state of mind and has her draw a picture believing that children express their emotions on paper rather than actuality. This is the first picture in the book, that of a 6-year-old who killed her mother. The counselor, whose name is Tomiko Hagio, believes Naomi to be fit for rehabilitation, and that contact with small animals and children would nurture something in Naomi, that sharp edge around her that would strike lethal would soften. Chippy and Naomi lived in a facility until Chippy's death some 6 years post-incident. Naomi moved out when she graduated secondary school, and on advice of someone in the facility, she decides to put herself through midwife school, despite feeling no real desire to practice midwifery. While in school, she works part-time at a cafe and meets 2 men. One is named Toyokawa, the other is Yoshiharu Miura. The latter would later go on to become her husband. Don't get too attached to him though, she kills him too. The circumstances for why are different, of course. She and Miura move to L Prefecture, where he becomes a secondary school art teacher. Miura is a passionate man who gives everything he does his full attention, and it doesn't take too long before the two of them have a kid together. They name him Haruto. Haruto becomes Naomi's world. She is his mother, and just like Chippy, she loves him very deeply. So deep to the point where when Miura starts physically disciplining Haruto after the age of 10, she makes up her mind to kill her husband, all in order to protect the one most precious to her. The reason that she doesn't go for a divorce is because she believes that the court would look at her previous history of her killing her mother and decide that she would be an unfit mother. So, if she wants to keep Haruto, but also protect him from her husband, he has to go. So she decides to kill her husband. The way she expertly goes about it is craftily revealed in the book when she kills Shunsuke Iwata, a student of her late husband, who admired him greatly. She did so in the exact same way, just some 3 years after her husband's death, when the aspiring reporter starts to research her husband's murder. You know how I mentioned that Naomi met 2 men when she was studying? The other's name is Toyokawa. And I'll give you a warning right now. He is the one that commits the sexual assault. Toyokawa and Miura were in the same year, but their artistic abilities were vastly different, with Toyokawa being the superior one between them two. But unlike the high school art teacher, his life post-school doesn't end up going so well. He was also planning on killing Miura out of jealousy for everything, but when he sees Naomi killing him before he can, he takes advantage of the situation. He takes advantage of her. I will also tell you right now that Naomi does get her revenge. After killing Awada in the exact same way as Miura, she kills Toyokawa, making it seem like suicide with a note stating that he was the one who killed both her husband and the aspiring reporter. All loose ends neatly tied up, she moves with Haruto to Tokyo. The two live there for years in a small apartment. She's secure in life. She has everything she's ever wanted, and things only seem to be going up when Haruto asks her if he can date someone he's met. Haruto and Naomi have a very dependent relationship. Naomi is wholly dependent on her son for a feeling of motherhood that she never experienced with her mom, to the point where she really has clipped his wings. Haruto has never been without his mom. I don't think that there's barely anything in his life where he hasn't relied on her. He's 27 and they still live together when he meets someone from his youth, Yuki Kamedo. Yuki was also a student from Yura. She was head of the art club and seemingly only one of 2 students who could stand Miura's strong personality. The two fall in love, slowly, but they do. Naomi gives them her blessing, and by a year, they're married. The two have a kid, Yura Kono. In the months building up to not just Yuki's pregnancy, but also Yura's birth, Haruto has been keeping up a blog. About a week before the delivery, he posts drawings that his wife has made. She calls them visions of the future. A week later, Yuki dies in childbirth. It's a bit of a mess, really. But to boil it down, Naomi has been giving Yuki salt pills instead of supplements. There's about a 6-year age difference between Yuki and Haruto, so she's already in the riskier category of maternity. But with her elevated blood pressure and the salt, a vein bursts in delivery, in her brain. The baby is saved via cesarean, but Yuki doesn't make it. On the surface, people believe she died because it was a breech baby that wasn't treated properly. In actuality, it was Naomi with a prayer. Yuki is Naomi's first selfish murder. She kills the 35-year-old because Naomi realized that she wanted to be a mother again. That feeling in the depth of her heart that she held for Chibi, that she held for Haruto when she first held him, it's back. This time, it's not just love but jealousy. Naomi tells herself that she will not wither like an old, smiling woman. But if Naomi survives, then she will support them, dissipate into their shadow until her death. That the salt pills are just more of a prayer rather than something that's bound to work. It still works. Haruto, who is so reliant on her, relents easily when she suggests that they raise Yuta to call her mother. The three of them live her happy fantasy, where Naomi is a mother again, where she experiences motherhood again. It takes just 3 years before Haruto realizes that Yuki's visions of the future weren't just drawings, that his late wife hid a message in them. When he deciphers it, he realizes what's happened, what Naomi had done. He leaves her a final message on his blog. To the one I love most, I am going to stop updating this blog today. I've finally figured out the secret of those 3 drawings. I can't imagine what kind of pain you must have been suffering. Nor can I understand the depths of whatever sin you committed. I cannot forgive you, but even so, I will always love you. Haruto kills himself. The pictures hid an old woman taking out a baby from Yuki's corpse via a gash. I wonder what kind of person Haruto imagined his mother to be, if such a simple image completely makes him understand that it was Naomi and that it had been intentional. Years later, when Yura is 5 or 6, there are 2 college students who stumble across his blog. Shuhei Sasaki and Kurihara, the latter of the 2 being way ahead and figuring out what the pictures mean. But without any context, without knowing who Naomi is, or Haruto, or Yuki, or Yuta, they don't understand the real tragedy behind the images, nor what sin Haruto speaks of. And with that, I'd like to make a bit of a jump. Back to the 3rd person Naomi kills in her life. He was a man named Shunsuke Iwata. If you remember, then I described him as an aspiring reporter. To be completely honest, he's just in the administrative section of a newspaper. But after his teacher's death, he's on a mission to discover who killed him. You see, Iwata lost both his parents young. Living with his grandfather only off of a pension, he was forced to work part-time during high school to make sure that they wouldn't starve. But then there was Miura. Every day without fail, he'd give Iwata 2 lunchboxes from the local convenience store. One for him and the other for his grandpa. Miura was a strong character, less considerate of other people's feelings, but you can't say that he did anything without passion. He helped Iwata with passion. So when he was murdered, the young student decided to become a reporter, and even when his dream was barred by, quite literally, being stuck with paperwork, he didn't hesitate to ask his coworker for help to investigate the cold case in his own time. This coworker being a seasoned reporter named Isamu Kumai. Kumai was put in administrative after getting esophageal cancer. The treatment worked, but his boss still forced him to another department after he returned back to work. Kumai was actually the lead reporter on the Miura case. But it's Iwata who figures out who killed Miura first, and as I said earlier, it gets him killed too. Iwata recreates Miura's day on the anniversary he was murdered. On the 20th of September, he goes hiking up a mountain, buying a Hayanagi bento lunchbox, a pork cut sandwich, and a sweet bun. He starts his hike 20 minutes later. He eats the lunchbox halfway up the mountain and arrives at the 8th station around 5. He intends to stay the night there in a tent and descend the following morning. Because he talked to Kumai, Iwata has seen the evidence of the case. How there was a half-digested lunchbox found in Miura's stomach, how he was smashed with a rock over 200 times, how there was a drawing on the back of a receipt of the view from the top of the mountain in his back pocket. It's the picture that's important here, because when Iwata arrives at the campsite, he realizes what's wrong. That the picture was a clue after all and not just a final drawing, that it was a message from Miura, that he wasn't killed on the 20th, but he'd seen the morning. He was killed on the 21st. Anyone who knew Miura knew he loved the Hayanagi lunchbox. Force-feeding one down his throat and waiting a couple of hours wasn't impossible when tied up in a sleeping bag. The complete mauling was to force the police to depend on the stomach contents rather than any other reliable method for dating his death. That's what Naomi did to Iwata too when he woke up that morning. Iwata is killed, Toyokawa is blamed, Naomi walks free. Until Isamu Kumai, seasoned reporter who now feels responsible for Iwata's death, learns the truth. It takes him 20 years for what Iwata had discovered in 2 weeks. The method of murder, the fabrication of alibis, the meanings of the drawings, everything. He sets up a plan using an old contact of his by getting Naomi to stab him, even if she believes she is defending her own home, her own child, to get her arrested. With her arrest, he's able to reopen previous cases for investigation, and her actions are finally brought to light. When recovering in the hospital, he becomes friendly with his bed neighbor, a kid by the name Kurihara. In the final ending of the book, we get a few more bits of information. Tomiko Hagyo revisits the drawing from 6-year-old Naomi Kono after learning of Naomi's arrest. She realizes another interpretation of the drawing besides her first assessment that later sent Naomi to rehabilitation. As for Kurihara, he is the college student who found the blog. After first discovering the clue in the pictures, he later connects more and more dots before realizing that it is related to Naomi Kono. And what would you have it then? Kurihara happens to break his leg, and the hospital bed they put him in to recover is right next to Kumai, the reporter who unveiled her. Kurihara closes a final thread in the story, the one that is Yuta Kono. Now officially alone, the boy is placed in an orphanage. There is no one left to take care of him. Yuki's parents cut off all contact with her years before he was born, and he has no more relatives from his father's side. Until Kurihara convinces Kumai otherwise. to take care of the boy for as long as he's got left to live. It wouldn't be very long. Kamai's cancer came back, and with a surgery, there is about a 50% chance that he'll make it past 5 years. But after Kurihara convinces him, in exchange for sharing Haruto's blood with the older man, Kurihara promises to get the surgery. And, true to his word, the old reporter does end up taking care of Yuta. There is a lot of symbology and themes in his book. With the stories somewhat centering around pictures, I imagine that it's pretty easy to create whatever imagery you'd like. And I mean, in this book, we talk about innocence, motherhood, desperation, love. We talk about a lot. Naomi is the crux of this story. She's not the main one telling it, but from how the story revolves around her and her actions, she is the one driving it all. She is maybe one of my favorite complex characters. There are things I falter for and things I don't, things I can't. So much of her actions are born out of desperation. Desperate to be loved by Haruto, whom she loves so much. Desperate to be a mother, desperate to protect what she loves. When she kills her mother, she only feels relief and a deep love for Chippy, because the bird is safe. She has no feelings for the woman, but she's also desperate to not be like her, cruel and indifferent. But in that same vein, she can't escape her. Her mother is in every mirror she looks in. She'll be in every picture she'll ever take. Every loved one she has will look at her mother's face too when they look at her. That is not a type of pain you can simply escape from. That is something she is forced to carry with her whole life. Her relation to her mother is both simple and complex, but that doesn't stop her from seeing herself as a mother. At first, it's not something that she's sure of, but the moment she holds Haruto for the first time, that doubt doesn't just evaporate. It's the same deep love that she has with Chippy. She is a mother even when Haruto is completely grown up. She sees herself so much as a mother that she kills Yuki so she can have Yuta. She is a mother, despite so many characters in the story being unable to conflate her with their own images of what a mother is. It's interesting. And if I had the time, I think I would read the book again.